Birthday Friday will be the last Friday of the month, which is August 31st. It will be at noon at the main office. So please, it's a good opportunity for you to meet other agents, to meet our vendors. So please come in and come in, eat with us, enjoy, talk, have a good time. We have a number of new agents, as you can see. So we want to say thank you very much for everybody being here. Adam, I don't think you were here last time, so Adam.
I wasn't.
So he's one of our new agents. You want to stand up and say hello?
Okay. Adam Johnson, been in real estate as a realtor for 26 years. But felt this is a good spot to be.
Well, we appreciate you coming back. All right, Lindsay Hayes from Flagstaff. We have the Allen Ginsberg and the Ginsberg Group in Flagstaff. Jennifer Gibbs, is she here? She's working with Darren Tackett. Tyler Johnston, I saw him. You want to stand up and say hello?
Hi, Tyler Johnston. I'm pretty new to real estate. Started in January. Started with RE/MAX on the 4th of July. So, yeah, how's it going?
Welcome to the party.
All right, perfect. Christy Filesticker, is she here? Okay. Rick Collins in Flagstaff. Jennifer Hoyle. I don't think I saw her walk in yet. We have Davis Driver. I saw it. Yep.
Right here, I'm Davis. I've got Alan Ondrek joined us yesterday. We've got Gallagher's been with me since December, where you focus up on Desert Mountain, Parks North. Very happy to be here.
And his wife isn't here because she's taking care of the grandbaby.
Right.
Brandon Minna. Byron Scott, he's up in, he's going to be doing dual duty here and in Flagstaff. I think he may be up in Flagstaff today. We also have a number of people that actually came back to us. So Colleen Davis, Scott Dexter, Shannon Parr, and then Shannon Quigliata. So thank you and welcome back. Just like what we've done in the last few months, we've had a builder here that is coming out telling about their new product. And Mary was here, and she just disappeared. Oh, there she is. Yeah, I was like, just was ready for you to go. So Mary Hoyt with Toll Brothers, come on up. Oh, yes, please turn your phones off.
No, it's fine, as long as I can get access to him.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Mary Hoyt. I'm with Toll Brothers. I represent.
Yeah, they're partially deaf.
Stand closer. I'm working at the Overlook at Fire Rock. It's in Fountain Hills. I fondly refer to Fountain Hills as East Scottsdale. So come on out and see us. We are, I'm just going to take a minute of your time. I did put some information on all of your seats here. Basically, it's just a community overview, so I won't bore you with everything. Basically, they're paired villas. So they're 2 homes per building, and they're in the Fire Rock Country Club. We are offering our buyers a social membership for the first year to the country club, and that would give them everything but the golf. The main thing I wanted to point out here is that we are ending our 4th quarter fiscal year on October 31st, so Toll Brothers is really anxious to sell 4 spec homes we have out there. They're completely done with landscaping, spools, water features.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah.
They're completely, hey Jamie.
Hi.
They're completely finished with landscaping, spools or water features, light fixtures, appliances. It's like if you have a client who wants resale, but they don't like old, or they don't want to remodel, they want something new. It's a brand new house, all the newest designs and features. So completely done spec homes. We are offering 4% commission on the completely negotiated price.
Here, let me rephrase that since you didn't hear it. 4%. 4%.
Yeah. And that's for a closing that occurs by October 31st of this year. So the prices that you see on the flyers here, those are, the full asking prices, but we are offering large incentives. So basically bring us any offer and we will entertain it for your client. Also on your form here, I just want to let everyone know that we are offering our 2 models for a sale leaseback. If you have any investor or buyer who's interested in maybe doing a leaseback program on our models, that information is in here as well. Not the details of it, but I can get that for you if you're interested. Basically, that's all I have to say. I'll let you get on with your meeting. Does anyone have any questions? besides talk louder.
Well, can you kind of, what about the lot size? How's the lots there? Because that's one of the normal questions that we receive.
Basically, the lot size is about 2,500 square feet. It's just, they're paired, they're townhomes.
Okay.
Okay? They're more of a lock and leave, low maintenance kind of lifestyles. For people who maybe are downsizing, second home, winter visitors, people that, you know, maybe don't want, maybe want a school or small pool, but don't want the maintenance of the yard and all that. Brand new, there's views. We have 2 level ones, we have 1 level ones. 2 of our spec homes are 1 story, and then 2 of them are 2 stories. So the models are both, they're beautiful. Has anyone been out there to see our models? You seen them? Okay. We did a deal with Mary Ann. Mary Ann Petraeus. We've done a deal with her out there, so she's been out there, and so. But it's really beautiful product. It's kind of unique in Fire Rock. It's the last parcel in Fire Rock to be, you know, like developed. Everything else in there, if you get new, is going to have to be like a custom build on a lot. So it's really great for buyers, Canadians, out-of-town buyers, you know, empty nesters, new retirees. It's a very active, nice community. So I really hope you come out and see our models. Does anyone know anything about lease back programs? We are doing those on our models. So.
Okay. Does
Did everyone
everybody
put-
have their business card in here?
What's the lease back percentage? 5, 6, 7?
It's 5.
Get your business card, pass it out for me, please. We're drawing, come on.
We have this beautiful summer basket here.
Mary,
Yeah.
which ones are the single level? I'm not seeing that it says which ones are single level. The first one, okay.
And then the 2 that we have is that one right here, and this one here would have a computer.
Okay.
So the first 4 are 1 story, and the second 4.
All right, Mary, you want to draw really quickly? That way you can give away what you brought in for everybody.
Leanne.
Leanne!
Were you with
Yes, yeah, I know.
Don't say, Mary, you don't know me. I never pass up an opportunity to pick on somebody and we've never met, right? No. Can you explain what this Toll Brothers Rewards card is?
When did you get that?
A long time ago, but.
1945.
Well, I don't know, that might have been our specific program, but we do.
Let me tell you how good Toll Brothers is. So if you sell Toll Brothers homes that maybe they don't do the program, you get like this rewards card and they laminate it and they put your name on it and all that stuff, right? I want you to read loudly my name.
Oh.
Sandra.
I've always kept this because I always pick on Toll Brothers.
We're easy to pick on. But we do have great realtor programs, so. We'll do half on commission, so 50% at the contract and 50% at closing, which is really good, especially if it takes a year to build. And then we have a 3-4-5 program, 3%, 4%, 5% if you sell multiple homes in Toll Brothers, and also a good reload program.
Just know, if you take your money up front and the deal doesn't close, you gotta give it back.
No.
Yeah, you're broke.
Okay.
Yeah, just think you gotta give it back, so be prepared. That happens every so often, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
In other words, don't cut them to pieces.
All on red, all on red.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, happy summer, everybody. Everybody had a good summer, everybody. Went away, we're back. I'm just gonna take 3 minutes before I bring on our speaker, and we'll talk about this more as time goes on. 5 minutes, I just want to have a discussion about what you think about what's going on with, we'll call them the iBuyer or the iSeller, with all the competition coming online with Open Door and OfferPad, and Purple Brick is now in our market, Zillow now selling real estate. I'm sure there's a few others. I just want to have a discussion for 3 minutes about, are you fearful? What do you think? What's going on? What do you guys think?
I think I'd buy anyone's house for, if they're gonna pay me 8%, and then I get to beat them up on the inspection also, which is kind of what OfferPad does. I mean, they give you like an 8%. You're paying OfferPad an 8% commission. And then they're hitting you with the round two, which is the inspection. It's not a great deal for a seller.
We talked about this in our team meeting yesterday, and we're not fearful because I think it serves us working out quickly, but I think for a lot of folks out there, they want the customized service that we provide. So I'm not worried about it. I think it serves a purpose, but I don't think it's the other places we do.
My concern is what they're recording in the tax record is not the real sales price, and they're recording their fees and all of that, so affecting our appraisal values for neighboring properties, and how that's gonna affect the clients we do serve when that comes down to the table.
Anybody else? Anybody losing business to them on the listing side?
I just think for certain property demographics, you have to address it up front with the client. I think if you don't address it, I think there's a potential that you don't get a listing. So basically, what they're getting is for their service of a few open houses, people coming in, they're getting significantly more in their own pockets for using you versus the iBuyer.
The other thing I think is that I think some sellers think this is the way to go because they just think this idea that people could come and go into the house if it's vacant so easily, and that they're going to buy their house and get out of having to deal with the house, especially if it's vacant, and taking care of it. If they can sell it quicker to someone like OfferPad or Zillow or somebody else, then they want out. They don't want to keep the carrying costs, so they're looking at it as a fast track instead of waiting to go through the whole process.
So they're starting to partner with some of the big teams in the East Valley. If you guys hadn't noticed, they're actually partnering with us now too, Open Doors. So you can list like other real estate teams. So you can be a partner on their listings now as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops and what the commissions are on that end.
Scott, you weren't at that luncheon,
No, I wasn't.
I'm going to tell you an interesting question that was brought up. Okay, the names are not important, but the question was brought up to the person that's responsible basically for Open Door, and feels that there may be a huge code of ethics violation with what Open Door and what they're doing. Okay, and here's what the premise was. We're licensed real estate agents. We have to be honest. We have to be fiduciary. We have to be fair and honest, and so on. So I'm a real estate company, forgetting the name. I'm a licensed real estate company in Arizona, and I call Joe Zabo, and I want to buy his house. And I know his house has a true value of $100,000. Well, like Antonio said, the only way it makes sense for me to buy it is I can only buy it for $80,000 because I have to buy it, right, at a certain price for it to make sense to me. The question is, am I being fair and honest as a licensee to the other party that's not?
No.
Okay? Now, it's not for today's discussion, but that was brought up, and I thought it was a really interesting topic.
We can discuss today.
How is it different than if you're representing a buyer,
Well-
the buyer submits, it's a FISBO, and they submit an offer that maybe is below market value, and the other side accepts?
Okay, so the way I understand it, I'm not an expert in this, but Open Door is the licensed company, and they are the buyer themselves, right? So if I'm a licensee, and I go to Joe's, and I know his house has a value, am I being fair and honest? If not representing anybody else, I'm representing myself, and I'm the principal.
Yeah, but I think you have the same obligation either way. I mean, if you're acting, you have a license, you are a realtor, whether you're representing yourself or whether you're representing someone else, you would owe those same fiduciary duties or obligations, especially if the obligation of the other side being good faith and fair dealing. I don't think it's your responsibility to say to the other side, your house is worth this, I'm going to pay you that. You're a bargaining antagonist at that point in time.
If you're
I don't
licensed.
see the issue.
I don't know.
Yeah.
An interesting debate.
Representing yourself.
I just want to think about it. I have a lot of literature I'm going to pass out and email you guys over the next couple of weeks, just about what the other companies are doing, how they operate. So if we're getting any competition, you're going on a listing appointment, you'll have some ammunition about that. So anyway, yeah.
I would say look at some of the reviews of people who have actually used them, because a lot of the conveniences that they offer, there are a lot of disclaimers in them, like you have to move, they'll give you, move you for free, but then it has to be in a 50-mile radius. So there's a lot of things that they offer that really may not, work for you.
Well, I'm going to give you my opinion again. To me, this is a fascinating debate because I think our industry, I'll use the word under attack, but that's a bad word. That's very harsh. But I think our industry is under scrutiny for a lot of things. I kind of relate it back to the 90s and maybe the early 2000s when we experienced the dot-com industry. and everybody was a capital venturist, and everybody was, and all of these .com companies were coming online, and yet dozens and dozens of them, and there was a big battle over it on Wall Street and in the marketplace for years and years and years. And when things settled down after a couple of years, some made it big, some just made it, most went under, and then things got to a norm again, which is what we're experiencing in that world. And I think the same thing is happening now. I don't think there's a place in the market for all of these companies. And I think some will make it, some will have, and like Leslie said, or Antonio said, there's a place for them. There is certainly a place for that market. I just don't think it's going to take away our industry the way we know it. My son is 31 years old, just sold his house in Denver, and he's moving to Connecticut. And I said to him, Scotty, Denver is the hottest market in the country. I said, why don't you put a for sale sign by yourself, and I'll walk you through the process, right? And he said something really, and my son knows nothing about real estate, zero. It's kind of embarrassing. Anyway, but he said something pretty profound to me. He said, Dad, I don't need you for content. I can go online all day long and get all the content that I need. I need somebody here to put it into context. And that was really powerful to me. It really meant something to me. So I said, Scott, what does that mean to you? And you said, well, I got all the information. I don't know what it means. I don't know how to navigate through a process, through a system. You know, I'm spending $500,000 to sell a house, $500,000 to buy a house. I have no clue what all this information means to me. I need somebody who knows what they're doing to tell me what to do. And that's the part, maybe that's the old-fashioned part of me, that part will never die. I'm a true believer that this whole .com industry with real estate will settle into some sort of new norm. Our services will never die. It'll never go away. We just have to put the value out there. Okay, that's just my little 2 cents. Does anybody not know who Scott Drucker is?
Don't be afraid, it's okay.
I will simply say 2 sentences if you don't know. Scott Drucker is the general counsel for AAR, right? Arizona Association of Realtors. He's not just a friend, he is a great friend to the industry and to you. ADRE is not our friend. I say that with huge respect to ADRE, but they are not the real estate agent's friend. Scott Drucker is your best friend. So.
Wow. Thank you, Sandra. He says all these nice things, and then I say that, right? What a jerk I am. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Great.
Thank you, and thank you, Sandy, for the invitation to come and chat this morning. I always appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to talk for about a half hour, maybe 40 minutes, depending on questions. What time is it now? Okay. If I look at my watch, I don't have anywhere else to go. I just want to be respectful of your time. But as I go along, seriously, if you have questions, you have stories, raise your hand, yell them out, whatever you're comfortable with. Sound good? Yeah. Okay. I've got a couple different things. So I have to stand here, right? I can move a little. I tend to wander a lot when I talk, so I will try my best. I promise. Because apparently it's live broadcast to Flagstaff.
We're recording.
Oh, recording. Okay. All right.
So we can edit out some of the bad things.
So when I disappear for a while. So I've got a couple different things that I can talk about, but I'm actually going to give you the choice between 2 main topics and see what interests you the most. The first topic that I can talk about is wire transfer fraud, and talk to you a little bit about what we're seeing, how it's affecting us, how the scam works, some of the warning signs and red flags that I think you and your clients really need to be aware of, as well as some of the resources that we've developed. So that's option number 1. Option number 2 is kind of more forms related. I can talk a little bit about copyright issues. Some of you may know we recently filed a copyright infringement lawsuit that I get a lot of questions about, so I'm happy to talk about that. Talk about how the BINSR and the SPDS are being misused and how that's creating problems, how we might start allowing the SPDS to be completed in a different manner than it is now. So that's option 2.
1, 2.
All right, raise your hand raise your hand for 1, for wire fraud. Thank you. We can chat afterwards because apparently it'll be just us. All right. let's talk about forms, okay? And I want to start by talking about copyright issues because we're seeing more and more violations of our copyrighted forms. You know, all of our AAR forms are subject to copyright, right? And we provide them to you as a member benefit. And what that means is, as realtors, you have the ability to use those forms. Members of the public cannot use those forms. And we're fairly aggressive in enforcing our copyrights. And we have to be, right? Because if you don't enforce, your copyright can become unenforceable, which means that we'll lose the exclusive nature of our forms. Now, does anyone know, when we see members of the public that are using our forms, does anyone know how they typically get them? From who?
Realtors.
From realtors. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm asking for a favor. I'm going to start by asking for a favor, which is, first and foremost, to keep blank AAR forms off of the internet. Keep them off of your websites. Don't just hand them to members of the public, okay? It keeps money in your pocket, it keeps money in the pocket of your colleagues, because if somebody wants to use our forms, I want them to hire one of you, okay? Recently I sent a letter, I was talking to a property manager who's not a real estate licensee who was utilizing our forms. And I said, how did you get the forms? And he said, well, it's funny because I was looking for realtors to hire, and I went on this one agent's website and there were all the forms. So I figured I didn't need the agent, I'll just do it myself.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So let's make sure that we keep the forms exclusive for us. I had mentioned when I started that we recently filed a copyright infringement lawsuit in federal district court. I get a lot of phone calls from members about this, asking questions about this when I go out and speak. People want to hear about it, so I'm going to share some information with you. Nothing about this lawsuit is a secret, okay? As members, you're entitled to know everything that we're doing in this regard, and hopefully you'll find it interesting and appreciate the action that we're taking. In order to understand the suit, you've got to go back in time a little bit, because all of this started in 2015. So in 2015, I was contacted by one of our members in Bullhead City. They had a cross transaction with a real estate agent. The agent on the other side, licensee, but not a realtor. Nonetheless, she was generating a bunch of AAR forms as part of the transaction. So the realtor called me and said, hey, I want you to know, I know she's not supposed to be doing this. I wanted to bring it to your attention. So I said, thank you. Waited until after the transaction closed before I did anything, right? Because the last thing I want to do is interfere with the transaction. I need you guys to earn a living. I do not want to interfere with that. So waited till the transaction closed. The agent called and said, yeah, we're done now. Go ahead, you can contact that other agent. So I did. I sent her what we call a cease and desist letter, right? Essentially demanding that she stop using the forms. And attached to that is an affidavit, and asked her to sign the affidavit. The affidavit essentially says two things. It says she acknowledges the violation and agrees that she will not use the forms at any point in the future. She signed the affidavit, sent it back to me. And just so you know, we do, by those letters, when it's a licensee on the other side, we do offer them the opportunity or invite them to become a realtor. I mean, she liked the forms, she wanted to use the forms, why not join the association? She declined to do so. That's perfectly within her rights, but what that means is she can't use the forms. All right. Now fast forward to the end of November last year. So last November. Get a call from a different realtor in Bullhead City, has a cross transaction with her, and guess what? She's again using the forms, right? Okay. So at that point, I kind of had enough, right? So, and I had talked to her 2 times in between. She had contacted me by way of email. One of the times was, oh, I took a class and the instructor said anyone can use the forms. And so I wrote back and explained it. So, I mean, you know, she knew what she was doing. And so at this point, essentially had enough and filed the lawsuit. Now, did I file the lawsuit just because I like to sue people? Yeah, that's a big part of it, yes. Yeah. But no, right? We've got to enforce our copyrights. So what do? Well, we filed a copyright infringement lawsuit in federal district court. I sued her, I sued her designated broker, and I sued her brokerage.
Is her name Sandra?
Okay? Yeah, exactly. That's what it says in the complaint, yes. One of the first things I did after we filed the complaint is I served a subpoena. You know what a subpoena is? It's just a request for production of documents. Served it on 2 of the largest title companies in Bullhead City, and I asked for her transaction files just with those specific title companies from the time between which she signed the affidavit and filed the lawsuit. Now, the time I filed the lawsuit, give me one sec. The time I filed the lawsuit, I knew of 2 violations. How many think? What's the number you think I know of now following that subpoena? 67. 67. Go ahead.
So you were saying, I'm so sorry, I got confused. You said that she was not licensed.
A licensee, but not a realtor. So she has a real estate license, but she does not belong to our Association of Realtors.
Okay, but she has a broker?
Yes, she has a broker. The broker as well is not a realtor. No one within her brokerage is a realtor.
We were confused.
I can say yes because I go fairly frequently and talk to them. They're a great group, though. They really are. But you don't want to go. You're fine. So what are we doing? What are we doing by way of this lawsuit? Well, the first thing we're doing is we're asking for a permanent injunction, okay? Right, a court order that says forever you cannot use our forms or else you can be held in contempt of court. But the second thing we're doing is we're asking for monetary damages, okay? And the statute is very specific as to the types of monetary damages that can be awarded. The first is disgorgement of profits, okay? Disgorgement is just a really fun word to say that means any money that you made while violating our copyrights, that money comes to us. Okay, so we've got about, right now it's about $122,000 in commissions that we've said to the court, that doesn't go to her, that goes to us. Now, we've also deemed her violations under the statute what it calls a willful violation, which is exactly what it sounds like, right? It means you knew what you were doing was wrong, yet you continued to do it. Well, why is it important that the court says it's a willful violation? Because for a willful violation, statutory damages of $150,000 per each instance.
Oh my God.
Yes. 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 Brokers aware. Yeah. And then we're seeking an award of costs and attorney's fees. So for those of you who don't have a calculator, that's right now we're over $12 million in damages. Okay. Go ahead.
What did the broker say? The designated
Well, the designated broker knew because they were signing off on all of the contracts throughout the.
TVs in the
They knew.
Caribbean somewhere. He's
Yeah.
You were saying you're fairly far along in this litigation. How did they answer? Did they claim that these
Okay.
documents are?
Yeah, so I'm going to get to that. I will. That's a great question, right? How do you answer that? How do you deny these allegations? But let me go back first to the $12 million in damages, okay? Am I going to see $12 million?
No.
No. First of all, there's a better chance I will see zero than I'll see $12 million. Do you think they even have errors and omissions insurance? No. No, of course not, right? Now, I don't know for sure whether E&O would have covered it. It would have depended on the policy, but we'll never know, okay? So how's the case going to end? Well, let's talk about the answer that they filed. In the answer, they did a general denial. But then we got their initial disclosure statement. I was going to say seller's property disclosure statement. Their initial disclosure statement. In their initial disclosure statement, they essentially admit utilizing all of our forms, but their position is, well, we had to do it because when we submit offers, agents wouldn't present them to their clients unless it was on a realtor form. Now, they know the law. The law is, of course, whenever you get a contract, you are obligated, right, to disclose it. Now, if you want to use an AAR contract, all you have to do is counter on an AAR form. So it's pretty simple. And that's not a defense to a copyright violation. Okay, so that is not a viable defense. So how's the case going to end? It's probably going to end in one of two ways. Either we're going to settle with them for an amount of money that I think is sufficient, that we think is sufficient. I say I, but the board of directors and the executive committee at AAR will make that decision. And it's got to be an amount of money that I think hurts them, right? That sends the message we want sent. Or we're probably going to file a motion for summary judgment. We're going to get a judgment against them. We'll try to get the money from the judgment. We'll garnish wages. We'll garnish bank accounts, garnish future earnings. But when we do that, the likelihood is the agent will file bankruptcy, the broker will file bankruptcy, and the brokerage will file bankruptcy. Now, I'm not looking to force anyone into bankruptcy. Okay, that's not the intention of the lawsuit. But as I said, if we don't enforce our copyrights, they can become unenforceable.
Will ADRE pull their licenses then?
So, ADRE. Now, does ADRE care what contract they use? No. So even though they violated the law in regard to copyrights, that's not something that Commissioner Lowe cares about. So that's not an issue because it's not when you think of the commissioner, think of what she's obligated to do, which is enforce the statutes and the Arizona Administrative Code, what we call the commissioner's rules. They haven't done anything that would constitute that sort of violation.
So after they file bankruptcy, they can easily just go up another LLC and open another brokerage there.
That could possibly happen, you're right. But to the extent that they have assets, filing bankruptcy isn't always that easy. And we haven't done a full search of assets, but we have a sense that there may be a rental property that's owned. I mean, so there's ways to get money, and we'll see. Yes?
Did you ever go after other agents who do belong and can use those forms that are giving those out willy-nilly?
I'm not really in the business of suing our own members,
Okay.
but we talk to them, and I've had a lot of luck in just discussing the subject with them, explaining to them why it's important. But if you're asking specifically, have I turned around and sued one of our own members, the answer is no. But I do contact our members fairly frequently when we find the blank forms on the internet, especially on their websites, and we ask them to take them down. There was a guy about 2 weeks ago, I guess he did something called a slide share presentation, and so he created this slide share online, but he didn't realize that once you create that, it's all public, and he had our forms on there, and so they were all over and he didn't mean to, it was an innocent violation, but he quickly took them down for us, so that was great. Yeah?
So is there a specific reason in speaking to them as to why they don't want to join the organization?
Well, their thought process is, I don't want to spend the money.
But I mean, if they're making that kind of money, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I
didn't know if they
understand.
had a reason.
But that's the answer. Is no, we're not interested in paying the fees. Of course, they'll pay thousands of times that amount. Probably just to their attorney alone. Yeah.
So are there forms out there? Let's just say we do a transaction and we are a member, and then we get one of those non-members communicating with us on different forms than what we are used to. Are those legal? Can we accept those?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Not only are they legal, you have to present any valid offer to your client. I don't care if you're sitting in a bar next to someone and they write all the material terms on a bar napkin. Okay. You've got to, as long as all the terms are there, you have to present that as a matter of law. Okay.
How about consecutive forms, not just contract, but then
other forms? Yeah, absolutely, you do. But again, you can respond on AAR forms and then utilize those in the transaction. As long as you are the one generating them, that's perfectly acceptable. Because again, I don't want to stop deals from going through. I don't want to stop you from doing business. You're a member. You're entitled to use the forms. Use them. It's just that if you're not a member, you cannot generate our forms. Yeah.
So which board member gave this Bullhead City outfit the forms to begin with?
So the way it looks is they took a completed contract, essentially whited it out, and have been using it because the vast majority of them have been handwritten that we've seen. So I don't know that anyone actually did give it to them.
I wonder who the instructor was.
They're copying it over and over and over.
Yeah. All right. So again, guys, help us keep these forms off the internet. If you are in a transaction with someone who you know shouldn't be using our forms, let me know. I won't interfere with your transaction, but we will step in once it's completed and once you give me the go-ahead. Fair enough? Okay. All right. I want to talk about the seller's property disclosure statement because we've got a big change potentially coming to that document. Right now, the seller's property disclosure statement can be completed only by hand, right?
Right. So annoying.
I hear you. And that's what we're talking about. So does anyone know why? Why do we have that policy in place right now? Why do we make it so that it can only be completed by hand?
So they really have
So
to do
really
it.
has to fill it out.
Say it again?
So a realtor doesn't fill it out.
That's first and foremost, okay? Because we see so many lawsuits, and guys, for 13 years before I took this position, I was in private practice, real estate litigation, defended agents. I can't tell you how many times I defended an agent, and the seller said, I didn't write that in. The agent must have written that in. 9 out of 10 times you can tell it's clearly a lie by the handwriting. The other 10% of the time we get a handwriting expert to come in and establish it that way. But yes, it absolutely protects the agent. The other reason is I think it shows to the seller the importance of the form, right? It's the one form in the transaction that we make them complete by hand. And so I think it emphasizes the importance of that form because let's be honest, that form carries with it more liability than any of our other forms. When we see lawsuits, failure to disclose, disclosing incorrect information, that is a critical form. But your point was what?
Annoying.
It's annoying, right?
You know, people are millennials now.
Millennials, yes.
They don't know how to write.
Are you a millennial? No, I don't see any millennials, but I know they're out there.
You're looking at a whole right here.
Oh yeah? You guys look very experienced. All right. Okay. So yeah, right. I mean, right. Technology has advanced, okay? Protections are in place. So what we've done is we've started looking into alternatives, ways that we can do this, but still offer the protections, okay? And we started talking with a number of document service providers, including zip forms, as well as e-signature providers, just to see what we can do about it. And we finally, I think I really insulted her about this. Yeah, I'll be hearing from them. So, we've been talking with these companies, and there's one of them in particular, eSign, that I think that we're going to move forward with an electronically fillable seller's property disclosure statement. And we're at the tail end of beta testing it right now. And they've been able to essentially put the protections in place that we feel comfortable with. And the way it'll work is you'll have the seller's property disclosure statement. It will be a locked PDF. You will enter in an email address. It'll get sent to that email address. Once it is opened by that email address, it'll unlock. The form will be able to be completed. When they hit done, it'll lock again. It'll then be sent back to the agent. The agent is unable to unlock it. They're preventing any claim that the agent went in and made changes to it. We will also maintain a data trail. eSign maintains a very good data trail that will show us how the form progressed, where it went, including IP addresses, right? Times, when it was opened, when it was closed, and then when it was locked and when it was unlocked. So we'll be able to show that it was never unlocked while it was in the possession of the agent. And the other thing that eSign is able to do for us that a couple of the others weren't is they maintain that data trail right now indefinitely. Does anyone know what the statute of limitations for breach of contract is in Arizona? 6 years. Which means I think I need a company that's going to maintain this data trail probably for at least 7. Other companies weren't able to do that. That's probably not the protection that I'm looking for. So we are going to move forward with this. We're trying. We hear the fact that it is a pain, and so we're trying to work with that, come up with ways that we can do it, but still maintain the protections that I think are that we need in place. I'm not saying the agents in this room are the ones that are going to go and start writing things in, but you know they're out there, right? And so I feel like we have to protect against that.
So how does it go from the seller to the buyer or the seller's agent? If it's locked and I can't open it, how do I forward it?
It's locked for.
It's locked for.
Yeah.
Just as a PDF.
It's locked as the PDF, but you can then enter another email address and have it sent and be unlocked again.
But you can print it off right then and there. You can download.
You can print it out.
View it.
That's exactly
You
right.
can change, make
Right.
changes.
And you know, one of the problems that I see now is, you know, we've got agents that have taken the form and they've created fillable PDFs out of it. And I know you see it, and it's a violation of the copyright, but what really bothers me about it is the fact that when that seller turns around and says, I didn't write that in, the agent did, the agent has no defense.
Yeah.
There is no way to prove that you as the agent didn't do that. And so that's a concern. And so they're working through all the details, and I'll be honest, our IT guys know more about this than me. I've told them what I need in place, the protections. They're working with the Business Service and Technology Committee to beta test this. The only difference that you'll see significantly is the form is going to be, the text will be exactly the same, but it's going to be longer because there has to be more spaces in between the questions because the fields need to be fillable. And so that is a change you'll see. The document is going to expand in the number of pages, but the substance of it will remain exactly the same. Yeah.
What's your position in terms of property that has never been occupied by the seller, such as an estate? And
Sure.
who report corresponding to it?
Yeah. Let me do this. Let me get back to that. I'm going to hit the seller's property disclosure statement in a minute, and I'm going to talk. I will talk about that. All right. Let me move on to another. Oh, real quick. I'm just going to mention this quickly. The buyer contingency addendum, which I know is a tricky little form. We're going to have a revised version of that coming out in October. You will see it. It'll be released for educational purposes prior to that, along with FAQs and articles talking about it. But I think we streamlined it, we simplified it, and we closed some of the loopholes that time had shown us existed. And so you'll be seeing that new form shortly, but it will be in place and ready to use come October, okay, October 1st. All right, let me talk about the BINSR, okay? Because we're seeing more and more problems with the BINSR, and particularly the way the BINSR is being completed by buyers, okay? Now, as agents, can you control what the buyer asks to be repaired? No, right? You can't. They get to choose that, okay? And
I'm not saying anything to the contrary, okay? At the end of the day, it is the buyer's decision as to what they're going to put down on that form. But I do think that one of the things we can all do is maybe manage their expectations a little better from the standpoint of what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. When you look at the form, it allows the seller the opportunity to correct, right? That's the term that's used, correct items of which the buyer disapproves. Correct is really akin to fix or repair. What it doesn't mean is upgrade, okay? Look, I know that the home inspector noted that a portion of the carpet in the living room was frayed. Okay. That doesn't mean you ask for the installation of hardwood floors throughout the home, okay? That's not a fix, that's not a correct, that's an upgrade, all right? That's not the purpose of the form. And I think our clients also need to understand that you're not buying a new home, and so you can't expect the home to be in like new condition, okay? If they want a home in like new condition, they can go to Toll Brothers and you guys can make 4%, okay? Which is great. But otherwise, they need to know, hey, you're buying a home that was built in 1980, you're buying a home that was built in 2000, it's not going to be in the same condition as a home that was built in 2018. And I don't think there's anything wrong with just mentioning that to our buyers so they have an understanding. Because let's be honest, what happens when they overreach on a Binzer and send it to the other side? Oh, sorry. Yeah, right? It just annoys them. It ticks off the seller, and oftentimes the seller just looks at it and goes, you know what, screw you, no. Okay? So I think we need to be mindful of that. Another issue that we're seeing with the Binzer, and this is one that, I don't know why, but it bothers me more than some of the others, is whose job is it, whose obligation is it to conduct inspections? The buyer or the seller? Buyer. The buyer, right? Everyone in here said the buyer. So why do we see so many Binzers that write, seller to inspect X and make recommended repairs, right? Seller to hire roof inspector, inspect roof, make recommended repairs. Seller to inspect air conditioning unit, make recommended repairs. No, okay? It's not appropriate request for the Binzer. If you're a buyer and you want something inspected, you inspect it. You pay for an inspector and you inspect it, okay? It is not the seller's job to conduct inspections. Yes?
As a home warranty professional,
yes,
what we see a lot is,
please,
I am begging all of you to ask to have your own trusted person, inspector, do the work.
Yeah.
It's because sometimes a homeowner on the other side of the transaction, they don't want to put a lot of money into the house to sell it. They just want to get it sold.
If you're hiring, if you're a buyer and you want something inspected, I'd like to hire someone that I know is trustworthy,
yes,
and that I'm paying to make sure that they're doing it correctly, okay? But besides that, sellers shouldn't be conducting inspections for the buyer.
So how do you recommend that the sellers respond when?
Yeah, okay, I mean, a couple different ways, all right? And there's, the first thing I would do is I would pick up the phone, all right? Because look, could you be a jerk about it, you know, and call them out? I think the best thing to do is pick up the phone and say, hey, look, it's not a valid request for a Binzer, okay? We could either reject it, but if you want something specifically repaired in regard to that, let us know. I know you only get one bite at the Binzer, but look, the idea is to compromise and close the transaction, right? That's what we're all trying to do, is close the transaction. If they want something specific repaired, let us know, okay? Otherwise, you talk to your broker, but I think the response is, on the Binzer, you say, inappropriate request for a Binzer, it's buyer's job to conduct inspections, seller cannot cancel on this, or buyer cannot cancel on this basis.
To her point, the problem we have is sellers do, normally want to take the cheaper route, and the buyers want to use their people to do the repairs, but we can't ask for seller in lieu of to pay buyer X, Y, and Z, because seller's like, well, I can get that done for $500 for my friend Jimmy down the street.
This amazes me, because I would, look, again, this is a seller's choice, but encourage your sellers to use licensed contractors, okay? It is in your best interest and it is in their best interest. And I understand it may be a little more expensive, but what happens 6 months down the road when that item breaks again, okay? And it looks like the repair was done poorly. Do you want to try to be chasing down some unlicensed handyman who you have no idea where they are? Or do you want to go to a company that's licensed, bonded, insured, stands behind their work so they can come out and say, yep, you know what, we'll fix that, okay? It is within, it's really in their best interest and in your best interest, because when they get sued, you get sued too. to use licensed contractors. Explain that to them, okay? Look, if they want to spend, if they want to save a couple bucks, that's their choice, but explain to them there's risks associated with that decision, okay? The other thing that we're seeing with the Binzers is don't just restate the inspector's recommendations. There's a Binzer that came across my desk and it said, home inspector recommends that dryer vents be cleaned every 5 years.
You didn't tell the seller to do anything.
Exactly. It's like, and? Right? You didn't ask for anything. You want something done, ask for it, and be specific. State it on there. And I don't want to see, page 4, item 2, okay, referring to a home inspection report. Put it specifically what you want. If you then want to reference, as indicated, put exactly what you want and then say, as indicated on page 2, item 4 of the home inspector's report, that's fine. But otherwise, you're making it far more difficult than it needs to be, okay? And again, that upsets the seller. And then the last thing I would say on this is to remind both parties, really, but in this case, the buyers, of the nature of the market, okay? I think right now that we are in more of a seller's market because inventory is so low, right? I think that demand is exceeding supply. And so what that means is we see a lot of backup offers and multiple offers. And so you've got a buyer, they get a home inspection report, and that report indicates air conditioning unit is working, it's working fine, but it's nearing the end of its life expectancy. Is it reasonable in this market for your buyer to say, I want a new air conditioning unit? No, right? It's not, okay? There may be a market where you could get away with that, but I don't think we're in it now, okay? So what that means is you might want to explain that to your buyer before they make that request. Any other questions on the Binzer?
Yeah, Scott, I'd like to go back to Christine's point, because I think it's a valid point. How do you respond to an invalid question is really what it is.
Yeah, please.
Right? And I think you're right. Go back to the person. It's invalid. I'll give you another chance to do it correctly. I mean, just try to make it happen. You've heard me say this before. So rather than saying, it needs a new roof and we want a new toilet bowl and we want, a new air conditioner, in lieu of these repairs, give me $10,000. Right? That's correct. You can do that. But we always see this. In lieu of any repairs, sell it, to credit $5,000. It's not done correct. We'll admit that. But if your seller has no problem in it, then just do it. It doesn't have to be right to be right. Is that a fair statement? If your seller's agreeing with it, then just...
I mean, the idea is to reach an agreement and get the deal done so it closes.
Keep moving along. But in the case where you're not asking the right question, I would strongly suggest you go back to the buyer, ask them to do it right, and in the event that they don't, you got to deal with the best you can.
That's right.
And the problem is you're just kicking the can down the road. Invalid request, seller expects buyer to close without any repairs. Well, that's not going to sit well with the buyer, and the buyer's going to try to get out an HOA addendum, or his friend is the loan officer, and they're going to get a loan denial.
Right.
So
that doesn't happen.
So it's a difficult situation, but you got to deal with it the best you can at that time.
Yeah.
So.
We
have one more with Sharon.
Yes. How are you?
Hi there.
It's good to see you.
Just a quick point of clarification. In the contract, you have to put requesting of any repairs by licensed contractors, right? You can't
Well,
just be in the bid.
right. So the contract already states the manner in which repairs have to be made, which is what? Workmanlike manner. How do you make changes to the contract? What document? An addendum. The Binzer's not an addendum. Okay, so the Binzer isn't used to change the terms of the contract. So yes, if you want a licensed contractor, negotiate it in the contract or by way of an addendum. Thank you. That's a great point.
And I may have, if I haven't done this, I will do this because I have it ready for you guys. You could put addendum to the purchase contract, right? A lot of it's right. Should termites be found during, so it's a contract issue, not a Binzer issue. So write down if any Binzer items need to be repaired by seller regarding roofing, electrical, plumbing, it shall be done by a licensed contractor. So now it becomes a contract issue, not a Binzer issue.
And remember that there are laws in place as to when licensed contractors have to be used, okay? If the totality of the repairs that you are paying an individual to do exceeds $1,000, it has to be done by a licensed contractor, okay? If the repair is more than of a casual or minor nature, it has to be done by a licensed contractor. So if you've got a pretty, a significant electrical issue, but it's only $900 to repair, it doesn't matter. It still has to be under the law made by a licensed contractor, okay? So most of the times when we're fighting over issues as to whether it has to be a licensed contractor, typically that's over the $1,000 mark, which means it already has to be used, performed by a licensed contractor.
Do you have a recommendation as to the best way to respond to the seller who says, I never occupied the house, no clue?
Okay, all right, so let's talk about seller's property. Can I get 5? You bet. Okay, is that all right? Sure. Okay, let me just spend 5 minutes talking about the seller's property disclosure statement, okay? Because this goes back to what we were talking about, which is that we're probably in a bit of a seller's market, which means sellers are dictating terms, and sellers think they're getting away with something now when they're saying, seller's not giving a seller's property disclosure statement, which is insane, okay? Look, I've drafted the seller's property disclosure statement. For whose benefit do you think that document exists? Is it for the benefit of the buyer or the seller? The seller, right? Look, it's a good tool for the buyer, but it's designed to protect the seller. The seller has disclosure obligations that are imposed upon them under the law. Meeting those obligations without using the seller's property disclosure statement, incredibly difficult. You will miss something. The best thing about the SPUDS is that it prompts you. It prompts you to answer the questions, okay? Now, where do we see the waiver of the SPUDS most frequently right now? I would say in regard to fix and flips, okay? And I had Commissioner Lowe and I were talking about this just yesterday because she is seeing the number of complaints. Right now, the #1 complaint that's coming into ADRE involves fix and flips, where the agent is representing a party or the agent is the party, okay? Fix and flips. One of the words is fix, okay? And you know the way the process works. You have someone that's an investor. They probably go and they look at the property, they inspect the property, get an understanding of what's involved. They then purchase the property. They take a real close look at it and get an understanding of, okay, what do I want to repair, what do I want to upgrade? They then either do the repairs and upgrades themselves, or more likely they hire someone else to come in. So they're signing receipts, they're signing work orders. Then once that work is done, they go back in, they make sure that the work is done professionally to their satisfaction. They probably get the house cleaned, they get it ready for sale, they put it on the market, and now they're telling us, I know nothing about this property.
I know.
Right? I know. You never lived in the property. I don't care. That doesn't mean you don't know anything about the property. Even if you don't know anything about the property, or let me say this, even if you didn't live there, still, fill out the seller's property disclosure statement to the best of your ability, because I promise you there will be questions on there that you're capable of answering, okay? What do you do if you're representing a buyer who's not getting a seller's property disclosure statement?
You hand them one anyways, and you cross and write down this is what you're not getting.
Yeah, I like it. And I would do 2 things, right? I would send them an email confirming that they understand they're not getting a seller's property disclosure statement. And in that email, I'd probably explain to them, this means you have a heightened responsibility in regard to your inspections, just so they know that. And then, yeah, I would give them a copy of the seller's property disclosure statement so they have an understanding as to, as you said, the information they're not getting. And some agents take it a step further. They actually ask their client to sign the bottom of the seller's property disclosure statement and return it to them so they have a copy for their file so they can prove that their client did see that document.
I have a disclosure question because this just happened to me. Is a seller required to disclose if they have a very noisy neighbor? Specifically, because I represented a buyer, they bought a house and found out there was a VRBO behind them, and every weekend there's parties and it's loud, and there's not that specific question. I know there's the noise question, but how?
Right, you don't have to disclose if there's rentals in the neighborhood or VRBOs. But any property that is causing a disturbance on a routine basis, especially if there's police calls for noise complaints, things of that nature, absolutely material. Wouldn't you want to know that if you were purchasing a property?
That will affect their decision.
Yes, that would.
So what recourse does a buyer have after closing? Because of course they don't know about it until it's closed.
Right.
And the seller didn't disclose, but all the neighbors know, and there's police records.
Right. I would go and demand mediation and see if you can't resolve it that way, by way of either rescission or monetary damages, but they need to go probably and talk to an attorney to get an understanding.
Scott, the last class I went with you, we talked about this, and the concept was brought up where, in the MLS it says, seller will not provide SPUDS included.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was you, but it was brought up at that meeting that said, as a buyer, never write in the buyer acknowledges or the buyer agrees to waive the SPUDS. Just never write it in there.
Oh, yeah.
First of all,
my God.
make the seller come back and say it, number one, right? And number two, if you're gonna put it in there, the words need to be, not that the buyer waives it, the seller will not provide it, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
No, that's a good point. I'd like to think I said that. Yeah.
It sounds like something you would say. Thank you, right? I was thinking that.
Quick question, is there any reason why the realtor shouldn't provide the home inspector with the spuds prior to the inspection?
No, it's a personal preference, I guess, but I'd like to give them the seller property disclosure statement because it gives them a heads up as to, hey, this might be an issue, maybe spend a little more time checking this out, you know. It says there was a flood in this room, spend a little more time in checking that out.
A question would be, a home goes under escrow, there's an inspection, falls out of escrow.
Sure.
Then you have another
Right, buyer,
inspection.
right.
Should they
All right,
get that formal
so
inspection?
what do you do with the prior inspection report? My preference, and you can tell me your preference, because I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this. My preference is to have the seller update the seller's property disclosure statement to the extent that there's information that's disclosed on there that that wasn't that they didn't have on their initial disclosure statement. Okay.
They didn't know about it.
Now, can you give them the new seller's or the prior inspection report? You can. Okay. There's nothing that prevents you from doing that. One of the things though that I hear from people is they'll say, you know, but we think that information is false. You know, we don't think that that's true what the inspector found. You can note that on a seller's property disclosure statement that, hey, look, we've lived in the house for 12 years. That has never been a problem for us, but the inspector disclosed it, so we're passing it along. But you have to make the disclosure
But if it
nonetheless.
was repaired and fixed, it's okay.
Yeah.
Listen, this is a great segue, because you're gonna get an email in the next couple of days with some clauses, and it addresses that. And here's some things that I wrote. You know, if you're asked a question from a previous inspection, you know, no one says you can't do it, but no one says you have to do it. But one of the things I wrote down was that the seller will provide the buyer with a previous home inspection with the following provisions. The buyer understands that the seller is providing it as a courtesy and a courtesy only. And number two, that the buyer must hire their own inspection company for their own good. In other words, they just can't rely on the one that was previously done.
Correct.
So you're.
And you should never rely on, I mean, because if you're a buyer, you don't want to rely on a previous inspection report, because let's say that inspector screwed up and got something wrong. You have no recourse against that inspector because you didn't hire them, you didn't pay them, you didn't contract with them. So you want your own inspector that you could potentially hold responsible to the extent that a mistake was made. All right, guys, I really appreciate your time and all of your questions. Thank you so much.
We have a quick update from Shannon Quigliana on open to close. So she'll be here just a few minutes, and then we got to keep everything moving. Sorry. You know how Sandy is. Thank you again. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I can't remember, I don't know who was at the meeting in June, but our website and our mobile app is actually launching, which is fabulous. Yeah, it's a tech company, so everything is delayed. But we will be launching to RE/MAX Fine Properties September 1st through the 5th. You'll be getting an email to sign up. For those of you that weren't at the meeting in June, this is an open house platform. It will eventually be national. We are launching in Arizona. RE/MAX Fine Properties and North & Co. are the only two brokerages that will be able to get on it in September. There are a lot of features. We'll be able to do coming soon open houses, pre-MLS open houses. We'll be able to do available for showings now, which means you can actually have an open house without actually being at an open house. And clients can call you and you can actually be around for a showing on a Saturday rather than having to sit in an open house. There's a lot of other features about it, but just wanted to let you know, I know I had talked about it in June, and it is going to be available to us in September. So it's a great platform. You'll be able to now also connect your buyer to you on the website. So when they do RSVP to an open house, that agent knows that they are represented by you. And what is also great about that is if your buyer has an account, you'll be able to see what open houses they've attended, what their feedback is, and you can also suggest other houses to them. So, all right,
Perfect.
that's
Thank you
it.
so much. I appreciate
Thank you.
So we have a new program. Yes, we have our preferred vendors, but outside of these vendors, how many times do we get a phone call about, hey, do you have a plumber? Do you have a pool inspector? Do you have something else? So we put together another program, and really Emily is the brainchild for pretty much this whole program. and she's taken the lead on it, and she's done a wonderful program. She's going to tell you just a little bit about it.
I won't take up too much of your time. If you don't know me, my name's Emily. So what this program is really it's really an advertising program to help small businesses. So it's more day-to-day tasks like plumbers, electricians, pool guys, landscapers, you know, people who have those smaller businesses. We want to help those people grow. So the more we help them grow, the more they help us, right, in terms of giving us clients and sending people our way. So that's kind of the idea that we had behind this program. It is a buy-in program. So these people pay to be a part of this program because they're counting on us to use their services, and again, we're counting on them to do a great job and, you know, give us good feedback. So I know I've had some feedback already, some good, some bad. You don't have to use these people, but we would prefer you do, because obviously the aim of the game is to give them that business. Everyone on this list I know and have worked with personally. There's not a single person that we've reached out to that's a stranger. So if you have any questions based on a business, I recommend doing your research first. Do your research, look at Yelp reviews. There is going to be a concierge display. There is a concierge display in the workroom. There's going to be business cards for each and every vendor, brochures, pamphlets. If you have any questions about a specific vendor, just come to me. Like I said, I've worked with every single one of them. Or call them yourself. I mean, every single person on this list will happily take the time to talk to you. So, yep, if you have questions, just let me know.
And everyone's licensed and bonded?
Emily has vetted them.
So
the ones that are.
So we have on your concierge book, you're going to see BI is bonded insured, LBI licensed bonded insured. So if they're not, everything is disclosed. So just do your research, and there's a little disclosure up top. So we don't recommend or take responsibility for any of the services or vendors below. So we don't require licensing. You know, there's some people who do a really great job who don't have it, and we obviously try to keep those at the minimal jobs, you know, under the $1,000 like Scott just talked about. So,
Janet.
Yep.
So how much does it cost for them to join RMFP?
Great question, yeah. So the buy-in program for this year, because we're setting it up, we're pushing it, and because they're smaller businesses, we're just doing a $500 buy-in program for this year. So next year will go up depending, you know, we'll do the pricing to see how much we've helped to those businesses, and you know how much they're helping us really. So it's kind of a two-way. They're keeping track of all the work orders and service orders that they get. So please make sure you say when you call them, I'm calling from the concierge program for RE/MAX Fine Properties. That way, they might give you a little special discount or something like that because they're part of this program. So, yeah. Any other questions? No?
All right, perfect.
Okay.
So talking about our vendors, this kind of help us make sure that we can have all of the facilities, all of our food, everything like that. So we're going to start over here with Home Point.
I'm Jason Glasser with Home Point Financial. We've been partnering with you guys, I think, about a year now. So thanks for all the referrals. So we do have some exciting news coming up. The first part of September, we are making the switch to SunWest Mortgage. We'll be doing business as Mortgage Possible. So keep your eyes out for some real positive changes. So, Sean?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting merger. We're excited about it. So technology and a technology mortgage company coming together to really create something new and fantastic. So we're excited about that. You'll see a lot of new changes with just really unique programs that some nobody has. So keep your eyes on that. Other than that, business as usual. If you need anything, give us a call.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Fidelity, we have Troy and Jen.
Jen Weller, Fidelity National Title, Scottsdale Pinnacle Peak Office.
I'm Troy Peterson with the Kierland office.
Okay. Tara?
Tara Carter, Old Republic Home Protection.
Ben and Julia?
Hi, I'm Ben.
Are you sure?
Those are two TV shows, weren't they? Ben and Julia.
Julia and Ben, Ben and Julia.
I thought it was Gentle Ben.
We both work at Fairway, obviously I'll let Julia speak to, obviously, but we work separately, independently, but we also obviously work at the same bank. So, love to meet with those that we haven't met with before. A loan officer on my team, Katie, has been in the office recently in some of the classes. Christy has been, she does business development for our team, so you may have seen her around as well. We've gotten some really positive feedback recently on some of the apps that we have, some of the software we offer to you and potentially your clients. One of them in particular has to do with just comparative analysis of different types of mortgages that your client can see, as far as we got feedback on just financial advice to your clients. Obviously, we always tell people their options on different types of programs that are available, but actually doing an analysis, comparing different types of financing, different down payments, rates, seeing short-term, long-term savings. We want to go the extra mile for your clients to understand not just what's going to save the most money today, but maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So something really cool. If you guys want to reach out to me, obviously our information is at the office. If you want to grab one of my business cards and reach out, I'd love to meet with you, tell you more about it. And beyond that, are there any agents in here that work in Flagstaff? Jane, anyone else? If you have a minute after the meeting, Jamie, I'd love to chat with you. You might have some leads in Flagstaff. But that's all.
All right, Julie, what do you got?
Julia Walker, I've been a preferred lender with you guys for I think going on 8 years, some of you guys for over 15 years. A few programs that we have rolled out with Fairway that I think will be really beneficial to your clients. A new down payment assistance program that is much more aggressive. Down payment assistance up to $20,000, 10% of the sales price. The income limits are much higher than they used to be, up to $92,000, and the loan limits are up to $371,000. They are restricted to zip codes, however, really helpful for some of your clients that need that down payment assistance program. And we're also seeing very aggressive jumbo loans come out, which we weren't seeing in the past, 5% down, as well as I've got a loan right now at $1.3 million that the debt to income ratios are up to almost 50%, and the rates are very competitive. So, you know, for your clients that are in that higher end market, we're seeing really aggressive things come out with these programs right now. So reach out to us. We'd be happy to work with all you guys.
Thank you. Bethany.
Hi everybody, I'm Bethany with Scan Mortgage. We actually are trying to really ramp up our renovation program right now. We have quite a few products available. We are really seeing a lot of properties that need renovation. People walking into them maybe want the new build but don't want to wait the time. So if anybody has somebody that has a property that they're interested in, wants a new kitchen, wants a backyard barbecue, a pool, things like that, we have the ability to roll those into the loan. So if anybody needs information on that, please let me know.
Thanks. Deanne.
Deanne with AZ Realty Media. Okay, if you're not using us, you really need to because we're amazing. Right, Dave?
Yeah,
Kelly?
very good.
Right. Coming up in September, I'm rolling out Matterport. We're bringing it in-house. All my photographers are contract. I'm actually bringing it in-house so it can be affordable for you. So we're going to shoot Matterport, $150 up to 4,000 square feet. That is stellar. Usually you're looking at $300.
That's a great price.
For the month of September, if you haven't done Matterport, do you guys know what Matterport is? 3D walkthrough, it's amazing. Put your VR classes. Out-of-state clients can walk through the house. So give it a shot. It's very affordable. Number two, our prices are amazing. Starting at $129 with the full marketing package. If you don't want the marketing package and you just want pictures, then it's $115. It's really affordable. Professional photographers, 10 years experience. We capture properties, we just don't shoot them, okay? So come back, get a flyer, check out our pricing. We'd love to work with you.
Thank you. Jill.
Good morning, Jill Wright, Chicago Title. If you need a new headshot, we are doing those tomorrow. We all, I know,
Thanks for the heads
our
up.
face on everything. Pretty good. Thank you for those of you that we do business with. We also are doing a monthly McDowell Mountain Ranch home tour. So if you have any hot listings or anything coming up, let me know.
Sharon.
Hello, everyone. Sharon Wolf-Furman, AJF Engineering and Inspections. Great to see you, and thanks for all of you who have been working with us. I know it's been a hot, long summer and interesting marketplace. One thing I just wanted to alert you all to, we've been having a lot of requests for pre-listing inspections, and which I find interesting since it's been a seller's market, but based on a lot of the conversations here, it may be a way for you as the agent to show your difference when you're pitching the listings. But I wanted to let you know that with the recall check and warranty program, it was not part of pre-listing before, but we've gotten the company to agree to offer it for pre-listings, and they've expanded pre-listing inspections from the 90-day to 120 days, which may even help the buyer on the quicker closes. And the big benefit is that they still will get the 5-year roof leak warranty. So that's been huge. So any questions about any of it, let us know. We're talking about a lunch and learn. And if you are interested in figuring out how you can better use these programs, just let me know that you're interested. Thanks.
Thank you. Mary.
Hi, everybody. Mary with Fidelity National Home Warranty. Hey, Tara, stand up for a second. No, we work really hard. No, it's love. We work really hard all summer to take care of your people, and thank God summer's almost over. But one thing, and Tara, you can have all my business if you can answer this differently than I do. If it has been disclosed by the seller that something doesn't work, and the home inspector said it doesn't work, do you think we're going to cover it?
No.
Tara, will you guys cover it?
No.
Yeah, because we cover things that fail due to normal wear and tear. We have a great product, we have a great company, and so does Tara. But if it was disclosed and the seller said it doesn't work and everybody knew, we can't cover it because we're selling about a $500 home warranty. So I'm sorry for the reality check, but I'm surprised when agents are surprised that if everybody knew, we don't cover it.
Well,
Sorry.
and I would just like to add to that, all we ask as a home warranty companies is that it's in good, proper working condition and works at least one time for your client once they move in, and we're covering it for an entire year. I promise you, things are going to break during that year. It doesn't have to break the day they move in, and it'll be questionable.
And just because the home inspector discloses it doesn't mean we have to fix it.
Right? All right.
Welcome to the real world.
Good morning, Julie LaRosa with Stewart Title. We're just across the parking lot from your office, so thank you. I had several new clients from RE/MAX Open Escrows yesterday. I wanted to let you know I was recently at the Tom Ferry Summit, 3.5 amazing days, so I am going to do a recap next week of the content and the information, so anybody who would be interested to hear what some of the great information was, just let me know and I will include you in that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our spotlight vendor this month is Fidelity.
It's like every month.
You're wondering why we
Almost every month. Next month it's CNN.
Why is it Jen just say hi and bye? Doesn't love us anymore.
All right, so Jen Weller from Fidelity.
I'm Troy.
And we have 3 Scottsdale offices, so just in case you ever need our Lincoln and Scottsdale office, our Kierland office, and then our Pinnacle Peak office where you guys have your 10 a.m. trainings every Thursday. I'll tell you about some new things with our app, and then he's going to talk to you about Total Farm, which hopefully you guys have all gotten set up on an account for. But many of you guys have used our app, and it's amazing, and it does a lot of different things. Great for open houses, great to calculate a net sheet for a seller or a buyer, 15 seconds or less. If you have somebody come into an open house, doesn't know how much they can afford to spend, but they know by payment, you can quickly give them 5 scenarios and email it or text it to them on the spot. Great way to try to capture their information. So what's new with the app? What's changed? Well, one of the biggest things is it now has lenses. And the lenses are kind of, you know, Snapchat and Instagram have all the little filters you can put over pictures. Well, they have them for real estate. So I went ahead and just made a couple so hopefully you guys can see them. So you can take your own photos, and they have all these different lenses. So there's a coming soon. You're invited if you're having like a broker open. Under contract, we like that one. Great backyard. Another great backyard. Man cave. It's one of my favorites. It should be a woman cave though. Another man cave. Pretty cool football one. She shed. And then they still have the flyers in here, like comparing multiple offers. This is great if you get like 3 offers you need to present to your seller at once. Maybe one's cash and 2 have loans. And they all want to know their net. You can all plug it into this and text it or email it to them right there on the spot. So, and then this is the monthly affordability one. You can put it into a flyer for 5 scenarios, what they can afford. Great flyer too to print at an open house. And of course, pending what a lender would say they'd be pre-qualified for. This is just an estimate. So that's the app. It's Fidelity Agent 1. So we just grab a card, or we'd be happy to send you a little invite for you guys to download it onto your device. So that's it. Troy?
Cool. How many of you do some kind of geographic farming, officially or unofficially? Okay, so we have this new product called Total Farm, and essentially what it does is it takes a traditional farm data that you would receive from title, and it puts it into an online tool that also uses some predictive analytics. So it's constantly updated. It's not out of date as it's recorded. This is constantly pulling in new data. So you have at your fingertips the ability to pull a farm of your desire. The idea is to micro farm, get granular, go to your neighborhood and pull that data right in the moment. Print mailing, send it out to print. However you want to use it, however you want to mark it. It'll tell you whether or not it's owner occupied or renter, all these different things. It's right there for you to see already. And then it begins to use predictive analytics to determine who is most likely to buy or sell. In my neighborhood, I live in Fireside and Desert Ridge. There's about 835 properties in my neighborhood. And in most cases, it'll take that and it'll narrow it by about 75%, such that there's about 25% of those homes that are left, or those owners that are most likely to buy or sell. That's available to you. You can narrow your market, you can narrow your marketing, save some money, and be more strategic. It uses an app that goes along right with it. You can do a walking farm. One of my clients just listed in the Mark, asked for a listing of all the people in that building. I can show them who owns, who's out of state, who's not occupying it. They can send a mailing, they can use the app, they can go and they can walk a property. You can door knock and you would know from your app where you're gonna walk. You're gonna know exactly who you're already gonna be talking to and whether or not they own the home or not. So it gives you a lot of data, a lot of detail for you to be smart in how you're targeting marketing in that way. We have a training. Connect with one of us if you would like to get on the program. It's a free opportunity. There's a paid side to it, which uses leads for people that are predictive analytics that are in various life stages. A whole nother element to it that's pretty fantastic. But we have a training next Friday on the 30th. Is that next Friday, the 30th?
Thursday.
Sorry, Thursday, the 30th, at our Pinnacle Peak office to go more in detail. But if you want to get set up on us, just leave us a card, connect with us. We'd love to connect you to it. It's called Total Farm. Pretty cool tool.
Right, thank you. So if you are interested in the farming, we're actually going to be talking about it this Thursday. So business development this week will be, actually we have a guest speaker. It's going to be Joe Zabo. He's going to actually give us some insight on how he built his business, some other opportunities that he's done throughout the way to make him as successful as he is. And he's really close to getting the circle. So it's 10 million over 10 years. So please, if you have a chance, come in there, listen to Joe, and then right afterwards in a Jumpstart program, we'll have some more information about the farming tool. Patrick McCabe is one of our newer agents. He just started working with a new development. He's going to give you a 30-second quick 30 seconds, and then we got to get wrapped up. Sorry.
So maybe a minute. So partners, relationships, very important. So RE/MAX Fine Properties and my sales team, my background, for those who don't know me, comes from new home sales. So I've created a new home sales team that represents developers. Our first relationship is with Family Development Homes. Family Development Homes is based out of Desert Palm, and they're a group of 3 families, and that's how they came up with the name. They are a luxury urban product or a luxury destination product. In North Scottsdale here, they've done Troon, or the Ridge at Troon North. They've also done Pinnacle Point off of Alma School Road. So I took over their one community in the Biltmore area. It's an urban luxury product that starts at about $400,000 with elevators, with rooftop deck options, up to about $600,000. So this is the relationship that we're going to build and grow with them. They also have a community in Arcadia Light, and there's going to be 2 more Scottsdale communities that are coming up. So Jennifer Hoyle's part of my team. Gabe Petraeus is going to be in the sales office. So you're all going to get a welcome email today from Family Development welcoming RE/MAX Fine Properties to their family. That's how they treat people. They pay 3% gross commission on every sale. So it's not just on base price like most production builders. They're not a production builder. So the next community in North Scottsdale is actually going to be at Desert Mountain. And that's going to be at about 1.2 million. And then they're going to have another high-end condo in the East Shea corridor with about 90 some units. So take a look at their website. It's familydevelopmenthomes.com. And then On Q is the first community. That's literally half a mile to Biltmore Fashion Park, right on 25th and Campbell. Great location. There's like 100 4-star Yelp restaurants within a half mile. And so it's a great lock and leave product or young professionals. So there'll also be a PDF along with that. Please put it on Facebook, load it, send it to your clients, etc. We want to continue to grow this development and the relationship with family development.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So if you want more information, you can always reach out to Patrick. One quick thing, then you're out. The office will be closed September the 3rd for Labor Day. Thanks. Have a great night.